to fourth? Or?
Yeah, so I'm in third, second there, go to fourth, in third, second, third, second, holding second. Then you go third here, fourth as I get to this curving, and then that's that. When I come into turn 12, I'm holding the throttle all the way to just about my tip in, slightly roll off, and I'm back to full. I don't even touch the brake in that zone at all. On the V4, when I'm on the V4, with even the faster closing speed, I might slightly touch the front brake, but then again, I'm like going straight back. My tip in is right around there. Some weekends there's a cone right after the bridge, but kind of my general like rule is just after that bridge. Or if you can't quite make it there because that's a fast, like you really try to get from one side to the other, right around that bridge. If you can, like at the end of it, not when it starts. Yeah, and start to initiate my turn in. And really, when you come through there, make sure you're not chopping off the throttle when you're still trying to turn to the outside, right? Because we come out of that 11B.
No, just as you come up, right?
Yeah, we come out of that 11B and we're actually turning to the left so that we can set up for the right. If we haven't slightly got, I say the point of zero lean angle at all, 0 degrees of lean angle. If we let off the throttle there, or if we let off the throttle slightly to that left side, it's going to be so hard to turn into that last corner. We do it either, I would say that slightest bit, like literally a degree, or like right around there. As we just start to turn to the side and then roll off, our bike's actually pointed towards the corner more, and it's going to be much easier to throw down into a fast corner like that. So really try to make sure we're kind of aiming towards the corner before we roll off or before we get to the brake, so that we're not kind of aimed off the track, and it makes it harder to throw around. Even with transitions, right? If we chop off the throttle, if we're coming through a transition, we're picking the throttle up because what happens when we pick the throttle up? The bike picks up, right? If we're picking the throttle up to help us in a transition, we want to carry it again past that point of zero before we maybe roll off for like 3B, right? Where you kind of have to roll off again. I'm carrying that throttle from the side to past that point of zero and then rolling off. That way I can get the bike to flip way faster and more efficiently. If I picked it up a little bit and then rolled off before I've even gotten over, I'm having to use my arms so much. I'm not using my legs anymore at that point because I'm trying, but I've already kind of got it to that point. Now I'm really just pushing with my arms, and it's just, you're going to get worn out and more tired doing it that way. But I'd say, right about that bridge is my tip in, and I'm really trying to carry that throttle just a little bit to where I'm just starting to turn in. It doesn't need to be a lot of lean angle, it's literally just a little bit. That way my bike's pointed towards these places. So let's say starting out of turn 1, I hit between 1 and 2 just barely, just getting onto it. Out of turn 2, getting up onto that curving just on my V4 barely, on my V2 a little bit more. Then out of 3C, I just hit, they need more curving there. I run into the grass too many times. That one, I run to the curb right by that paint. Then out of 5, definitely, that's probably the biggest one every single lap I'm hitting, out of turn 5. If the one in turn 6 was longer, I'd be hitting it longer. I just hit the end of the turn 6 one. Then coming out of 10, I'm using the 11A and the 11B curves because the more that we can make those lines straight, the better. And those curves are, like this is almost, I think it's FIM paint, which is the best stuff, right? That's like the stuff that has a little bit of grit in it, and it actually has a lot of grip. Some tracks, the grip is actually better on the curving than it is on the actual racetrack. So, the grip is good there, and I try to straight line those. And the turn 12 one is a little bit hard, and because it's so fast, you really try not to get all the way out there, but some laps, yeah. But definitely every lap, I'm a little bit out of 1, a little bit out of 2, 5, and then those 11A, 11B, those are the main ones. You rolling off the throttle and then getting to the brake? Do you feel like any of you are doing that? Well, that's not the way to do it. We want to go from full gas to the brakes. So what I'm doing is I'm going for my full throttle. I'm actually lifting my braking fingers just before I get to the braking zone. That way when I roll off the throttle, it's actually putting me in that position to grab the brake lever. That's time that you're losing every lap. That is so easy to get, and a lot of people do it. And it's honestly from street riding. There's a little, you don't really need to focus on anything like that. But for maximizing time or trying to be better and it's honestly safer, definitely going into the corners, full gas to the brake lever. So when I do that into there, it also allows me to push my braking marker consistently. Every time when I get to the brakes, I know there's no time in between. It's just from 1 to 1. So my braking marker is definite every single time. My closing speeds and my braking marker is going to be quite different. I have 2 different bikes. It also depends on the wind. So, quick fun fact, when you're at Daytona and you're drafting in the 200, a good thing to look at are the flags so that you know which direction the wind's coming, which way you can draft and what side of the bike is better to be under. So I do almost the same thing here when I look at the flags, the American flags coming into turn 1. I know some laps, if the wind is really pushing, today isn't so bad, so not really a big worry today, but if the wind's really bad, I can actually push my braking marker a little bit farther or brake a little bit sooner if the wind's coming behind me. But my braking marker generally is on the V4 is right around the first braking marker there. I don't know if it's a 4 or a 5 or whatever, but it's right around that first marker. For the V2, it's like right about the same spot, maybe just a little bit after that, kind of depending again on the wind. That's changed quite a bit, but that one I'm really focusing on just getting it stopped to the apex. Still a high roll speed corner, you want to carry some speed into there, but getting it stopped so I can again maximize, try to get to full throttle in between 1 and 2. Real spots I use it here are maybe turn 5 just a little bit, as after I've gotten my initial hard braking, as I'm starting to tip in, I feed in the rear brake just a little bit. Not a lot though, just to get it to kind of pitch. But that's really on my race bike. On my practice bikes, I'm not really doing it that much. That's really like the last few tenths here. This is not a very rear brake, super necessary track. And then a little bit, if I had a thumb brake, I'd maybe use it a little bit in like 9, but I don't. I use it maybe a little bit in turn 10, just on my initial entry, but that's again like the last few things I'm trying to worry about. I'm more focused on hitting my marks every single lap, because this track is actually pretty hard to get consistently every single lap, especially on a track day where you have a lot of guys out there, a lot of distractions. Pretty difficult to get a couple clean laps in. Throttle, keeping that throttle wide open if I can, but if I can't, really using it to help me steer the bike and get over the top of it, so that way by the time I get to kind of 12, I'm just, I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain. I'm just setting up for the next one, so I'm trying to make everything that straight line. If I can basically make it to where my outside from here is like a straight line, that way I'm not kind of turning and then having to turn again, right? Trying to just make it as straight up and down as possible. That way I'm not kind of pointed to the outside towards the grass in any direction. I'm kind of more straight to the track. Yeah. Could be honestly patience. When you come out of turn 10, sometimes when we're getting faster, we're trying to find time, we get a little bit impatient, and that line maybe initially isn't wide, but it starts to get wider and you're hitting this curbing too soon, or like turning into that part too soon, which will then push you out too soon for the next curbing, and then you definitely feel like you have to roll out because you're not on that correct line. So that almost starts back here, right? Maybe we need to be a little bit more patient and think, okay, I have to find the time more on the exit rather than trying to make up mid-corner and then running too hot into here. Kind of being a little more patient, waiting a little bit later and getting to that full gas, but then these two are straight up and down, and you're not kind of having to compensate for one and roll off for the other, right? Yeah.